Welcome to the Improvement Nerds podcast, where it's our goal to bring together a bunch of improvement nerds in order to start an improvolution by providing people with a new tool set, a new skill set, and a new mindset. We're grateful that you're spending time with us today. If you enjoy what you hear, please follow our podcast and subscribe, because there's sure to be good content that occurs in these conversations as we nerd out. All right, Improvement Nerds, welcome to episode number 10. What a milestone. So excited to be sharing this episode with you. As I embarked on this journey, I was excited and had a lot of energy, but I also was a little concerned about how conversations like this would be received, and would I have anyone listening to it? Would I have anyone wanting to come on to the show to be a guest? And as I put it out in the universe has responded. I've met a lot of great individuals as a result of hosting these conversations, and every time someone comes on to this episode, I just walk away feeling very blessed to have had the chance to share that person's story. And in every episode, I feel like I learn something new and I grow personally. And the same is true for episode 10. In this episode, I welcome Jacqueline Martinez, who is an HR professional. She has honed her craft within the recruiting space, helping organizations to identify and attract top talent. So as she joins us today, she's going to share a little bit about herself, and I'm excited for you guys to get to know her. She's a very gifted individual. She hosts her own podcast, which is From Coffee to Wine, in which she captures stories about individuals and the work they do between the hours of 9 to 5. She works with a consulting firm, HRD, in which they and their organization offer HR services to organizations that are trying to become a magnet for talent. Ladies and gentlemen, excited to be welcoming her. Let's dive into the episode. Hey, Improvement Nerds. This is Tom West back with another episode of the Improvement Nerds podcast. Real excited to be having a conversation with my friend Jacqueline Martinez. She's joining me today, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about our passion for serving others and helping individuals have opportunity to do purposeful work. So how I met Jacqueline was kind of through the social media platform and doing networking, and the people I were meeting, I was talking to them about the work I'd done for HR transformation and this goal that I'd had to help HR individuals play an important role in organizational transformation and helping them to be more strategic and to help them measure their progress and to be more adaptive and to be responsive to all the changes that are happening in industry. And this was well before COVID-19. So there was a lot of change being thrown at HR at that point, and there's even more being thrown at them right now. So as I started to dream a little bit about how I can serve HR people, everyone I was meeting with was saying, you've got to meet Jacqueline. She's doing some cool stuff in that space. She's got a lot of ideas. She's got a podcast that talks about what it's like to live in a 9 to 5, and within that role that you have and those hours, you can dedicate yourself and you can have a profound impact. So I started to follow her podcast. I reached out to her. I invited her to come onto our platform. And I'm just super excited she's here with me today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Jacqueline Martinez.
Hey, Tom. Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Yes, excited to have you. So in that introduction, I tend to ramble. I tried to get as much out of my head as I could about how our circles merged and have overlapped. But outside of like what we're doing professionally, I'm getting to know you personally. So I know that you've got a young family. So I know that you're a Purdue graduate, and I won't hold that against you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your family. Tell us a little bit about your pathway to how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I did graduate from Purdue, intending to become a therapist. So instead, at the time of going and getting my master's, I decided I didn't want to continue into school at the time and went into work in HR instead, which is funny because I love school. Like, I love to learn, and I think that is partially what makes me such a nerd, especially in the self-development space. But at the time, I was like, let me be, somewhat fiscally responsible and go work. And so Target hired me into HR, and that's kind of where it took off. Fast forward, I am living on the south side of Indianapolis with my young blended family. I have a 4-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old stepdaughter, and an 11-year-old stepson. And my husband and I live down here. We both commute an hour each way. Although now there's not much commuting happening, especially with our quarantine status, which I'm not hating. I don't know about you.
I don't miss the commuting either. And, funny enough, like the thing I'm missing most is the opportunity to go to our national parks. It's the thing that's got me down the most. It's so bizarre. One, because growing up, I grew up near Lake Michigan Lakeshore, and the dunes was always accessible to me. So I took these things for granted, like this beautiful wilderness. And my wife and I, we ran cross country. So we were always outdoors. And I had no idea the beautiful places that existed in our nation. And I just last year had the opportunity to go check some of them out. And I totally drank the Kool-Aid. I was a park junkie. I created a list. I'm like, I'm going to go here, here, and here. And I had all these grand plans. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, get over it, dude. But that's really pulling on me right now is that those places, they're so significant and they're so profound that when people go there, it's more than just visiting a park. It's in some ways finding yourself, and they're pretty spiritual in some ways. And I think right now with people, all the stress that they're trying to endure, having a place where they can go out and just be among nature and clear their thoughts and focus on themselves is a place that needs to be open. And unfortunately, they've got challenges right now, so they're not as accessible, and I'm totally bummed out about it.
I completely agree, and I'm glad you said that. I was thinking about that actually yesterday. So a year ago, in 2 weeks, is my husband and I's 1-year anniversary. We got married in Havasu, the really obscure park, down in the canyon. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the most beautiful experiences with the biggest waterfalls I've ever seen in my life. Yes,
I heard the hike to the Havasu Falls is just amazing.
Is it on your list?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely on my list. Although it's I heard it's harder to do because of the distance that has to be hiked to access all the falls. So it can be challenging with a young family. So it's going to be one of those that I try to do with either when the boys are older or with my wife and I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did it just the two of us and ran down there, got married, hiked out 3 days later. It was a dream.
Oh man, that does sound awesome. So you're a park nerd on top of all this other nerdiness that you've got going on. The parks are a piece of that puzzle too.
Absolutely. We definitely have that in common.
Yes. Oh man. So that's the one thing I'm holding on to is on the other side of all this, I will have that opportunity to go back out and check out the parks and continue my adventure.
Oh, I just love being outside in general, but yeah, the parks have a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Have you done any of the virtual park visits? I talked to them and they'd said Yosemite and Grand Canyon have live cam where you can tune in and you can check out some of the sites through their virtual platform now. So maybe that'll help me with my blues.
Yes, likewise. No, I will say, so the Grand Canyon, when people describe it, they're like, well, it's just a big hole in the ground. Well, it is, but it is absolutely majestic. I mean, the size of it alone, there is nothing like standing in front of it.
I know.
There's no replacement for it. So when somebody says, I'm going to be by the Grand Canyon, should I go? I'm like, absolutely. Even if you're only there for 20 minutes, it'll change you as a human.
Yes, and the two rims are so different from each other.
Yep.
We went and did a road trip, and we hit the North Rim, and it was cold, really rocky trees, across the landscape there as you go through the forest into that lodge area, and it didn't feel really deserty. And then we did the lap around. We went and saw my Grammy in Las Vegas, and on the way home, we were stationed out of Four Corners in New Mexico. So on the way home, we stopped and checked out the South Rim, and it is sheer cliffs. Like, you stand at the edge and it's just straight down into the valley, whereas on the North Rim, it's more of a gradual decline into the valley floor. So there are two different sites. So I'd encourage individuals to put it on their bucket list to check out both the North Rim and the South Rim.
Mm-hmm. And it depends on the time of year you go to. I mean, honestly, we could record an entire podcast on this.
I know. Yes, I know. I think maybe we're going to have to schedule that for the nerding out about our parks. So, but we do have a goal. We are here. We are nerding out about something you're very passionate about. And I think it's very timely because I'd mentioned that HR right now has a lot of change being asked of them. But beyond that change, I think it's a lot of opportunity, right, for them to bring about radical change and just rethink how they serve people and serve industry. So I'm excited to be having this conversation with you because I hear you got a lot of ideas about how they can step into the light and really play that role within organizations to be thought leaders. So before we get all the way down into that stuff, I'm going to set the stage here and ask you, so Jacqueline, what nerds you out?
What nerds me out, Tom, is the notion of people at work. And I know that sounds general, but it is everything from how we talk to people as they're coming into the organization, how we treat them, how we make them feel, how we grow them and pour into them and work with them when they're in the organization, and how we, treat them as they're offboarding and as they're on their way out. I mean, everything from top to bottom. I'm really passionate about how we deal with our people.
I love that everything you just said about HR, you weren't talking about the functions of recruiting or training or orientation. You were talking more about the value that those parts of HR provide, from that initial impression and the welcoming to the organization and the preparing. So as you nerded out, like, had I not known your background was HR, I would have had a hard time following what you were saying because you weren't using those HR siloed words of recruiting and orientation and payroll and, comp and benefits. Or you were saying, here's the important part of what those roles allow you to do as an organization, and it's to see people as people and to position them well to do whatever work that they were brought on to do and to contribute and have value. So, oh man, you just spoke to my heart. You are a nerd. That's so cool.
I told you. I'm glad that there was a confirmation there. I'm glad that I finally passed your nerd test.
Yeah. But I don't know if I've got the credentials to certify people as nerds. But so far, if I were to become an expert in certifying nerds, you're meeting the requirements thus far. That the human-centered element, I think, is such an important part to nerding out. Is I read somewhere the best way to be selfless is to be selfish, is to do stuff you love and then to role model that and encourage others that they should be doing what they love too. It was very obvious that when you shared what your passion was, that this is something you love, and that as you're doing it, those people around you who are interacting with you, they're seeing that passion too, and that creates positive energy. So to me, nerds are kind of like those people who aren't afraid to just do what they love doing, regardless of how others might perceive it, and just puts it out there. And who knows what can happen as a result of creating that energy.
Exactly.
So how did this become a passion for you?
Well, I spilled some of the beans when I told you that I desired to be in therapy, so therapist. And so my start was really from the human side. So I realized at a very young age that I loved people and that my purpose and my goal in life is to help people become more of themselves. And so I stepped into the business world with that idea in mind. And so I already knew the human side and I was learning the business side, right? So all the aspects of HR, all the aspects of business, how to do both and be a really, really, really good business partner. Well, a lot of shock came with that because I learned very quickly that the real world sees people as factors of production, as a priority for, just getting things done and making dollars and trying to crank out things. And that is definitely part of it. I mean, that's why business runs. But I knew in my gut that there was another way, and that way was valuing humans as the priority for business success and sustainable growth. And so I use my gifts of love and empathy and connection with people to drive that change in every workplace that I've been in. And so I naturally would get thrown into these situations where they're like, Jacqueline, there's this aspect of HR or recruiting or whatever it is that maybe isn't working the best, build it or strip it down and build it. And that happened in every role that I stepped into, which was really exciting and fun. And so what I would do is I would build it. And it wasn't just the functions of, payroll needs to be changed and systems and this and that. It was very much being able to help people deal with each other. I mean, you think of HR terms like employee relations and leadership development, and those are absolutely things that I was doing. But more than that, I was just helping people become more of themselves. Like, yes, the people in your workforce, what they fundamentally want are growth and freedom. This is how we help them achieve that while you're achieving business results. And when they feel fulfilled, your business will be most fulfilled. And it was really just connections in each business unit's level. And I just completely nerded out there.
That was, you're taking me on a journey here. Like knowing what people are motivated to do is an important part of stepping into a role that allows you to serve them. And some of the things you highlighted was that people value growth and development and mastery. So invest in them, the skills that they need to make and lead change and to contribute and to see their impact. They value autonomy. So this flexibility to innovate and create and fail safely. And they value relationships, is to come and have a sense of belonging and collegiality with the team that they're on. And one of my mentors, he stopped using the word team at work, and he chose to call everyone family. But this is my work family here. And some of the stuff you're saying is those things that I valued in my career that kept me showing up and doing really hard work in the healthcare system was because my leader gave me those things. They invested in me. They gave me that flexibility, and the people that I was working with, we had more than just friendship. We embraced each other as individuals, and we knew each other at work and outside of work. So it did feel like a family, and it was just a lot of fun. So to hear like your punch list of this is what HR people need to create a poster of and hang in their offices is to give these 4 things to the people you lead, and you're doing your job and the results will follow. I think that's, we can just end the episode here. That's so profound.
I just mic dropped.
So tell me, what is motivating you to do this? Why is this so important to you?
Oh, that is a really hard question, Tom. And I ask myself this all the time. Like, why can't I just do the easy thing and have a job where I do something pretty similar every day and go home and not think about it, right? And that's great for so many people and so needed. But I am created to take the hard route. And I knew a long time ago that this fire was just burning inside of me, to put it simply. And so I've kind of become this work lay psychologist, not necessarily on an individual level, sometimes on an individual level, but just a work coach. And I don't do that in a formal capacity right now. I do that so I'm a recruiter right now. I'm a consultant, and so I'm able to do that from a hiring perspective. And I've just made it my goal and my dream to continue to impact workplaces in a way that helps release the creating humans as factors of production. I saw the need. And so other business leaders who connect with me on that level, we're made for each other.
Yeah. And that's, some people say that's a niche or something to look for HR organizations that think in that capacity. And maybe right now it's pretty seldom and it's not as frequent as we'd like it to be. But the fact that people are starting to think this way is pretty uplifting, because at least in my education, so I have a degree in finance, and so I came into the workforce and I'd read the books and I thought I knew what success looked like, and I was really strong with data. And then I entered the workforce and I realized that those things that I was trained on really didn't allow me to feel connected to my work or to the people around me. And I had some issues early on in my career because I was showing up and producing, but I didn't feel like I was making any progress. And I think so many individuals feel that way too, of like their work is just something they do. It's not something that really empowers them or excites them. And that to me is concerning, because if you show up and you're just going through the motions, or if you show up and worse, that the processes that you're asked to employ day in and day out are broken or arduous, and instead of creating joy, they do the opposite, is they cause frustration or anxiety or anger. The more and more that you find yourself in that situation, the less and less human you feel, and your batteries can drain, and you can start to make pretty harsh judgment on yourself. Instead of like, oh, my job sucks or this process sucks, it's more, I suck. And to me, like, that's something that we gotta stop. That's a vicious cycle. We need people who are empowered to take risk and to plug in and to feel that what they're doing is making an impact and giving them greater purpose, so that we can charge those batteries up. Because what they do at work, is important. It contributes to our economy and it provides them income to care for their family. But the reality is there's a ton of work that has to happen outside of industry. So at your dinner table and in your community and within your neighborhood, we need people to go home from their 9 to 5 with enough energy to do the other work. That's got to happen there too, to mentor or volunteer as a coach for a soccer team or whatever. There's so many examples that people can probably resonate with that I can't list here. But if we can create this improve this relationship between employees and their employment, we can let people feel connected again. And what you're saying is you want to help people become themselves. And I love that, because in some ways people are fragmented because they feel like they got to be someone different while they're at work, and then when they come home they're themselves again. And that's just a lot to ask of a person, is to be wear these multiple hats. It's quite exhausting.
Yeah, and there's absolutely the need to, there's a professional Jacqueline, and there's a hanging out on a Friday night Jacqueline. But at the end of the day, like, I'm me. And when companies started embracing the notion of people being them whole selves all the time versus there being a balance, work-life balance, well, it's really just an integration. And that, even though that's common sense to people like me and you, that is really a progressive idea. And I'm learning that as I navigate through the world of consulting and noticing just how many companies are still so far behind. One of my best friends, he is somebody who he's really good at his job. And he's really good at people development and the different aspects of his job he can do day in and day out, but on Sunday nights he gets those blues. And I'm like, what is it about you going into work on Monday morning? Well, I know what it is. I mean, it's the person he works for. And so, and some of it, it's external, but so much of it can also be shifted in our minds. So yeah, maybe the drive is the problem, but maybe it's your thoughts about the drive to work. And so there's a lot of work that can be done there too, as well. And I do work individually with a lot of people on that. I mean, it's not what I do as a profession. It's, part of my, part of my side coaching, that isn't formal at all, but I think the mindset is a large piece of that, because if we our needs are being met, in terms of growth and freedom and connection, then what is it? It's probably something in our minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my brother had a silly analogy. He's talking about, our old habits. So, with COVID, our habit, if anything, we've been freed from our structure. And so and I think it's causing a lot of anxiety, because we as adults, we thrive off of routine and we like predictability, and all those habits we had, those structures we had, have now been kind of shaken up a bit. But back in the days when I was in my 9 to 5, I'd wake up and I'd exercise between X hour and Y hour. I'd get in my car, I'd drive to work, I'd work, get in my car, I'd come home. And my brother was like, think about all the activities that are going on. You sleep 8 hours a day, you drive in your car probably 2 hours a day, and you work 9 hours a day. So, that's 19 hours or whatever the math ends up being. So he's like, if your bed sucks, if your car sucks, and if your job sucks, like 80% of your life sucks. So, invest in joy and do a job you love, or buy a car that makes you happy, or spend that extra money on the bed that allows you to rest and recover. I was like, that's pretty cool, Aaron. My older brother, I was just like, I never thought of it that way. He's like, you're going to spend your whole life busting your hump and trying to keep up. He's like, allow yourself to indulge a little bit so that this isn't a suck fest. Like, nice. So I'm curious, what do you think has been some of the catalytic events for organizations to go on this journey to be more human-centered and to be more purpose-driven or values-driven? At least when I was in school, so I did my MBA about 8 years ago. Empathy, humility, diversity, inclusion, they were nowhere in my syllabus. And now, if you look on the thought leader platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram, all the influencers like Simon Sinek, a lot of their conversations are about just that, especially Brené Brown. She talks, exclusively about the importance of understanding shame and how if we can address our fears, we can be our whole selves again. So these authors, maybe they've been around for a little bit, but maybe my awareness or ability to listen to what they were saying wasn't quite there. But is this a catalytic event like at an individual level, or is it something you're seeing happen at an industry level? So how are all these things becoming more conversational, like acceptable to talk about?
Yeah, those are some great questions. I think it's both, right? So, I mean, before we were all quarantined and had almost completely full employment, from the recruiting situation, there's a lot of competition around hiring the best talent. And in order to hire the best talent, you had to be the best. In order to be the best, you had to be competitive when it came to meeting the needs of the people that work for you. And that was really around leadership, empathy, these softer, I'm putting that in quotes, qualities that made up a company. And so, that had everything to do with how you marketed and your branding and, again, those softer qualities. And so we've had to evolve, and we've been doing that long. The economy has been good long enough for even those who were really bad at it just start catching on and taking baby steps. Well, in addition to that, it seems to me like we are evolving. So, thought leaders like Brene Brown and Simon Sinek, they have led the way for us. I remember when I first saw Simon Sinek, I was wowed, like completely awestruck. So, I'm in this organization, leading some pretty big culture change. And this is, I think, where my nerdiness on this topic really came out, because I had the free time to be able to think a little bit in my role, and I was just researching like crazy and like getting all the information I could, and half my days were spent researching and learning and reading. And although I was unsettled, like in my gut, I was like, there's more, and just continuing to reach for that. I was getting so much joy out of learning what I was learning. And the more I uncovered, the more I was thinking, everyone needs to know this. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs to be working like this. How come we're not working like this? And so I really believed in that. And I actually was able to attend a conference where Simon Sinek got on the stage and started talking. And I was like, what? He's talking about leadership and finding your why and, really putting that out before you. And, connecting your why with the company's why, and the company even having a why. And that was just a new notion. So after working with my current company on that kind of culture change, I was like, everyone needs to do this. This has to be mainstream. And so other people were also in that mindset. And so as a collective, we started to head that direction. And I think now, more than ever, we're focusing on the human side of things.
Yeah, and I think that it was this, in your story, it was kind of this N of one. So you, like, it resonates, it increases or piques your interest and creates this new way of thinking. And as soon as you start to step into that new way of thinking, doors open and relationships blossom that probably wouldn't have manifested had you not changed the way you were willing to think or the way you were showing up. And I've realized starting my own business, that just thinking that these things are possible and believing in the journey that I'm on and being excited and creating positive energy about it has brought so many relationships into my life that I didn't think would have happened, because I'm introverted, so I don't naturally meet people very easily. It's not, one of the things that I would say I'm really good at. It's something I'm learning and I'm improving at now, because I didn't practice it much during my life. But now that I believe that, working with others and hearing people's ideas and capturing their stories is part of, creating a community around what I would like to see happen, which is almost what you're saying, is people have the tools to address whatever is preventing them from loving their work or loving the roles that they have, and can bring about improvement. And, I'm trying to broaden the definition of improvement. It's not just, what I've seen, unfortunately, is organizations labeling it as cost-cutting measures or all about large ROI projects, but beyond improvement is people and the processes that they use day in and day out. And sometimes those processes are antiquated and they're stressful, and we got to do something about that. So for me, that's what, I believe in. And the more and more I talk about that, the people who think similarly or who can sharpen my thoughts are showing up in my life. You, for example, like everything we're talking about now, like I feel like our circles do overlap because we have similar goals, which is to unleash the creativity of workforce or to give people purpose or create joy at work. I mean, you can say it so many different ways. And I think we had to initially believe it for ourselves before we could join the community of people who'd already bought into it. And that as that group grows, that group has the ability to influence and bring about more change, more transformative change than any one individual could have done on their own. So I'd love to see, like, your journey was this multiplier effect too of, piqued my interest. And then I met people, and then I tried it within an organization and it worked and they enjoyed it. And then we saw what else it can do. And it just kind of became this flywheel.
Absolutely. And I think, that journey that we are on, but have been on ourselves, is really what got us here, because we have the hunger and the desire. And, the more I searched and learned, and the more that I did something about it, the more it happens, just like anything else. So truly my passion is to help companies, become more people focused, but also to help the people become more people focused.
Yes, yeah. I love that. And I can tell that you've done a lot of research, and that this is something that you didn't just say, oh, it's all going to come together naturally, but it was like, I've got to work hard to do the research needed to fully understand this. So it's very clear that you're a reader. And in the book, Chief Joy Officer, the author says that leaders are readers and readers are leaders. So I can see that you're taking time and you're researching this, and you're motivated to become an expert in this field. And you're talking about so many things that I hope resonate with individuals, that, they themselves want to go out and do some research too. So in all that reading you've done, or all the, research that you've done, what are like two things that you would say, like, go to these things? These are the trusted resources. These were the guides that helped me increase my understanding, or increase the hope that I had that these things could happen.
Yeah, that's difficult, because I don't know about you, but you hit the nail on the head with reading. I am like, read 5 books on Audible at a time kind of person, and then maybe 1 or 2 paper books, and then I've got articles and podcasts. I mean, It's honestly out of control. So I don't suggest that, but that's how I do things. I mean, honestly, it's kind of older at this point, but one of the books that really set me on my path is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And if you are unfamiliar with the notion of figuring out what your mission and purpose is, then that is a great place to start. So that's one. I think 2, honestly, anything Brene Brown does. And I think what's great about Brene is vulnerability. If you're unfamiliar with vulnerability, and a lot of business people truly are, like, they could tell you what it is from a textbook standpoint, but when it comes to actually doing it, the exponential is just the magnitude of the impact that vulnerability has is unreal. And the only way to experience it is to do it, which means to be vulnerable, to share yourself. And that's scary. And so a lot of this is about being brave, which is another one of the reasons why I love Brene Brown, because she talks about vulnerability and bravery.
All the time. Yeah, the books that she's got a lot, and they're all wonderfully written. But so I read Dare to Lead shortly after my transition to start my own business, and that all the things that she was giving in regards to examples or quotes or the ways to embrace vulnerability, I had to take them off the page and integrate them into my life, and to try them. And I think by trying them, like reading the ideas on the page were quite interesting and intriguing, but I was somewhat skeptical. Like, yeah, right. Like, could I be vulnerable? In being vulnerable, could that change my mindset? Could that change my outcomes? So I experimented with it, and it did. Like, it had a profound impact. Just the way I was showing up and admitting that I was human, and that here's what I hope would happen, but just relinquishing control to what the outcome ultimately would be, but having confidence that everything would work out in the end was something that just really helped me. And then the next book I read was Braving the Wilderness, which kind of followed up on that. Is as you move further and further from your comfort zone, the anxieties you have become less and less and less, because you grow into this new space and this new normal, and you as a person have this opportunity to redefine who you are. So those books, I'm glad that you're recommending them, because I would double down on that recommendation, because I think she's a wonderful author.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're nerding out with me on this.
Yes. So
I have one more that I do. It changed me in a way. I got the Audible and the paperback book, which I don't get a lot of paperback books, is how much it changed. If you are a leader in an organization, or especially in HR and leading leaders, the book Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Have you read that one?
Yeah, I have. That's another great recommendation. Yes. Yeah.
It just because it's all of that. It's being brave. It's vulnerability. It's being real. It's storytelling, and not storytelling like fairy tales. Like, this is my life. Be completely real with me. Because one of the hardest things in work, anywhere you go, is being afraid to show up as your true self. Because if you do, and you get rejected in any way, whether it's your idea is not good, or don't do that, or you're too much, or you're too little. I mean, that's just the most disheartening thing you can experience as a person. Mm-hmm. So more and more people jumping onto the Radical Candor bandwagon. I mean, it's just magic.
Yeah, the big takeaway out of that book was authenticity and love, and that if you are doing it from a place of good intentions and with that person in a way that you're doing it because you love them, giving them feedback or having these difficult conversations or helping them to see themselves is the best thing you can do. And I thought, oh man, that's, because we're Midwest. So here we are in Indiana, like, we've got the Hoosier hospitality, we got Midwest nice. Yeah, we're very nice as a culture. But sometimes individuals have to get the feedback that allows them to start to self-assess, how they're showing up. And when they're showing up in a way that's inconsistent with who they really are, the best way to turn that stone over is to get feedback about it. And that could be a pretty severe jolt to an individual to have that realization. But then on the other side of that realization, as Brené Brown would say, is you have this reckoning. So you realize this thing is occurring, you have this rumble, you wrestle with it and you deal with it, and then you rise on the other side of it. And I think beyond just rising, you have this opportunity to be reborn. So I think you have this rebirth opportunity too, to say, now I have this choice to make a decision about who I become hereafter. So I think in Radical Candor talked a lot about the best thing you could do when you have observations about a person is to share that and be candid with them and do it in a way to which they know that you love them and that you're really trying to help that individual learn more about who they are so that they can make a choice about who they want to become.
I love that word reckoning. I wrote it down just because I think it is extremely impactful for what's happening right now.
Yes.
With our quarantine situation. We are at a point of reckoning where we are going to be reborn through this, and on the other side of it, look completely different. And I am here for it and ready to be a part of what that looks like.
I know. Yeah, I think there's a lot of anxiety because of the uncertainty, but there's a lot of opportunity in this as well. So, I've enjoyed this conversation. Everything you're saying has got me totally fueled up, and I've enjoyed nerding out with you. So one of the nice little dance in the video. I can hear little voices in the background, so I know your coworker, the little 4-year-old that you have in your house, is ready for you to move on to your next agenda item. So I want to bring us to a close. Okay. The last question I always ask in this, actually there's 2 questions, is so how does this passion of yours to help people be more of themselves again intersect with all things improvement? So that's one question. And then the last thing is, maybe we start with this one, is how do people find you?
Perfect. So I live on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Martinez. And email is so easy, Jacqueline@hrdadvisors.com. You can find my podcast at fromcoffeetowine.bar, or it's called From Coffee to Wine on iTunes, Spotify, all the things. Instagram, Coffee to Wine. I mean, I'm very social and love to talk. So I'd love to connect with anybody listening.
Awesome. And then how does this passion of yours, just dream with us a little bit, how do you see this passion of yours intersecting with improvement? You've given a lot of examples of self and team and organization. What else is there within this effort, this movement to help people be themselves again in their work? How else does this bring about radical change and improvement?
Well, I wish I could sit here and say that I had an amazing idea to, come up with a thesis that's going to one day change or rule the world. No, that last part was a joke. But truly, everything that I've done has been because of this inner gut fire that I have for myself. So I primarily am doing it. I love to help others, but primarily doing it to influence myself and to improve myself. And so everything that I'm doing, I'm always trying to become a better version of myself so that I can help other people. And I'm learning along the way that in order for people to be impacted is I have to share my story, which is why the podcast started, which is why, I'm very active on social media and learning how to be a better storyteller, and be more vulnerable, because that's very scary. And along with that is more self-improvement. So I think that you'll see from me just more sharing of myself, what I'm learning, in my story, and connecting with as many people as I can. So what does that look like long term? I don't know, but right now I'm just taking it one day at a time.
Yes, so we'll do a shout out because you've talked a lot about that internal fire. And, we have a mutual friend in Jason Barnaby. So obviously he's had a profound impact on you in the direction you're taking your life. It's obvious that he's encouraged you to embrace this fire that you have. So it sounds like in regards to this, that would be your encouragement to the listeners of this, is to, discover your passion and to fan and to get your internal fire more of a significant flame that creates energy. And I think that's super cool that, in this improvement journey, you're saying it's more about self, and that you're going to get more out of this as an individual than any organization probably can ever measure. And my friend, he says it really well, is that relationships are the currency of the world. And if organizations measured their success in that way, the relationships they created or that they'd inspired, wouldn't it be a different world?
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm glad that you brought up Jason. I feel like I can't record a podcast, whether it's mine or somebody else's, without bringing Jason up. He has had such a profound impact on me and my journey. And I really connect with the work that he does. And he's actually the one that connected us initially.
Yes. He is the one who said we gotta nerd out together. He is definitely a fellow nerd.
I love it. I told him, I was like, I'm kind of like the female version of you, Jason. less flames, but yes.
Yes. No, you're definitely putting that flame out into the universe to say, this is what I believe in. And those people who believe in it too, they're coming around that flame for life also, and to have that energy. So you're definitely making headway, and you're building a coalition of people that, as those individuals start to target their energy, who knows what change that can be brought about. And you just have this really positive outlook, especially right now in time of uncertainty. You're choosing to say, hey, on the other side of this, we can grow as a society. We can embrace each other as individuals. So much good can come out of this too. So, you just left us in this episode with so many insightful things, and can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. And we need to thank your coworker for giving you the flexibility to talk to us today. So thanks for taking time, and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you, Tom. And honestly, I just want to say thank you for starting your podcast. I know it's recently started, but what I've heard so far, you are making an impact. So you're doing important work.
Yes, thank you for that. That's a wrap for episode 10. What an awesome episode. What an awesome person. Big thank you and major shout out to Jacqueline for taking time out of her day to come and to share her story and to share her vision about the role of HR going forward, and the realities that we can benefit from if we create the space where individuals feel that they're able to show up and be them whole selves, and how HR is perfectly positioned to make that a reality. I am totally on board with that, and I had so much fun talking to Jacqueline today. And for those who want to follow her journey, again, reach out to her by LinkedIn, listen to her podcast, which is From Coffee to Wine, and connect with her. I think you'll find that she's got a lot of energy, and she's an encourager of others. So as she connects with you and you connect with her, I think you guys will definitely grow, and who knows what will come of those things. So thanks for listening, and if you enjoy these episodes, please share them with your friends. Reach out to us, let us know what we're doing that you like, any ideas that you might have to make them better.